My name's Derrek Williams, and I'm Quality Director at Achieve and Partners. And I'm here to talk to you about apprenticeships. Our role is purely to provide the examinations and the tests which individuals will sit and hopefully achieve. I had a bit of time on my hands last evening, so I thought I'd just go onto Google and have a look-see what comes up when you put the word installers in and apprenticeships and do a bit of a search in terms of what's there. And it was really quite revealing and somewhat disappointing, I have to say, because what came back at me was very much a reflection of the apprenticeship program which has recently disappeared. The furniture installers program at level 2, which has ceased to be funded and has now been replaced by a brand new fitted interiors installer level 2 program. And that program is the one that we should be all promoting. And obviously a little bit disappointing to see that that doesn't have the type of promotion which I think it should, particularly as it was launched in February. And here we are now in June. So my first challenge really to the industry at large, whoever you are, is get out there, update your websites, let's update our information through social media and everything else, and let's get the correct name of the program, which is quite different, by the way, to the old program and has lots more advantages and indeed is showing early signs of a lot more traction than the original furniture installers program had. So that's a sort of a good news story in reflection of the initial signs of uptake. So just to put a figure on that, we've had something like treble the number of inquiries from potential training providers, colleges, employers, those sorts of groups interested in this new interiors installer program relative to the previous one. Now we've got to look at why that is, haven't we? Well, it's a new program which is great, and people like new shiny things, I guess. But from a technical perspective, it has a lot of advantages which employers out there in particular really need to get hold of. So, for example, the furniture installers program that's disappeared was very much about furniture and very much about fitting the types of kitchens and bathrooms and home offices and things like that, which are very much about wood. Now, the new interiors installer program includes all of that. That hasn't disappeared, which is fantastic, but its breadth and its scope is now much wider, is much more flexible, much more adaptable. This is quite, a good selling point. So employers out there hear this, because it's about a modern apprenticeship now, which is catering and reflecting all the new types of materials and all the types of techniques which are about interiors installation and not about wood. So all of a sudden it has so much more appeal because it's not about wood per se. It integrates plastics, it can involve metals, it can involve composites of all kinds, because we work with all those sorts of materials in interior installations. That also opens up the scope for where you do it. So it's not about that list of comfortable things that we talked about before with kitchens and bathrooms and all that sort of thing, important as they are, but it's also now about shop fitting and big office fitting and commercial fitting. It's also about fitting out yachts and boats and ships and potentially coaches and buses. Okay, the standard can be flexed for so many different environments now that you can be an installer, an apprentice installer in any one of those very large number of contexts. And that's a great selling picture. And I think reflects why it is that we're seeing somewhere near treble the inquiries for this type of apprenticeship, which is great. What I'll do is very quickly sort of go through what some of the technical requirements are, because we're here from a technical perspective, and the endpoint assessment very much reflects the sorts of knowledge and skills which an interiors installer genuinely has to have, not just to work in a job, but the expectation to build a role in a wider career for the future. Okay? Because it's not about what apprentices do now, that's very important, but it's about the progression, it's about where they're going. There's no point in providing an apprenticeship which leads you to a dead end. Yeah? This is about the world of installation in general, and it's about progression through into much more wider business context as a role. So you wouldn't be surprised then that the new interiors installer program has got 3 components. There's an online knowledge test, which is looking at quite a number of technical areas. I'm sure you could think of very obvious ones like health and safety, safe systems of work. But now the new program is also including a knowledge of things like electrical fittings and water fittings and the safety related to handling those types of services, because installers are working around and with those services and have to have a working knowledge of those particular utilities. Things like understanding building structures, principles of carpentry, design principles, and features of different types of interiors are all the sorts of things that are going to be tested in a multiple choice, 40 question, 1 hour knowledge test online. And very exciting test, because apprentices get their result immediately that they press the finish button. The other component of the apprenticeship is an observation, and most new observations now are 3 hours in length, and apprentice has to choose the types of tasks which reflect their day in and day out working opportunities. And as I explained earlier, these are very flexible in terms of how it is that you demonstrate your skills with a range of materials. So it's all set very generically, things like wearing the appropriate PPE, things like interpreting drawings, using power tools, using hand tools, doing pre-installation checks, actual assembly work and fitting work with ancillary items as well. So those are all the observation areas that you'd an apprentice to be able to demonstrate their skills over the 3 hours. And then finally there's a 1 hour interview, and the interview is basically dealing with all the sorts of knowledge and skills that you wouldn't expect to see in an observation. So it's questions around faults and snags, and things go wrong, for example. Things like communication, teamwork, the environment, sustainability around materials, things like that. So that's a quick sort of whistle-top tour of the 3 tests. So good question from Simon, and it's really about being very clear about the name of this new apprenticeship. So from us then, it's the Achieving Partners Level 2 Fitted Interiors Installer Apprenticeship. Okay, so it's Fitted Interiors Installer, and it has replaced the older program, which was part of the Furniture Manufacturer Apprenticeship, where there was a pathway called Fitted Furniture Installer. So that's the one that's now not funded anymore and has disappeared. So it's Fitted Interiors Installer. That's the one we're gunning for. Okay. Thank you very much indeed.